It's got power, but it still doesn't seem to be working.
If what Narracott told Vera is true, and mind you, I take anything he says with a grain of salt, then they will not be sending a boat until at least Monday, even if the storm clears.
Wise to remember, Narracott's the odd man out here.
Yes, thanks to you, I believe, Blore.
At least nothing else has occurred.
I hope you are correct, Miss Claythorne. However, I feel compelled to draw your attention to this table's centerpiece.
Now 2 are broken. How odd.
Ah, Mr. Narracott, good morning. Since Mr. Marsden won't be joining us, there is an extra place for breakfast, although breakfast itself seems to be a trifle behind schedule.
I'm afraid there is no breakfast at present. Mrs. Rogers has not been able to carry on this morning.
What's the matter with the woman? I was promised fresh apple juice this morning.
I must tell you a sad piece of news. Mrs. Rogers died in her sleep.
Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
She was a very skittish creature. And she had a shock last night. It might have been heart failure.
Her heart certainly failed to beat. What caused it to fail is the question.
Did you hear anything in the night?
No, my sleep was quite restful.
Thank you for your time, Miss Claythorne. Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death, Judge?
I'm afraid it confirms my opinion that there is something very wrong on this island. It occurs to me that if these 2 deaths were not suicides or accidents, that Mr. Owen may very well be responsible. If so, he is almost certainly on this island somewhere.
I agree. I think we should find a way off this island immediately.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I confess I slept fitfully. Marsden's death, the storm, but I heard nothing. Possibly also due to the storm.
Understandable, Judge. Quite understandable.
Mr. Narracott, can your boat be repaired?
I doubt very seriously it can be repaired. Mr. Blore did a good job.
Steady on. I didn't know then how the land lay, did I?
So you say.
If you find a means of leaving the island or of signaling the mainland, I'm sure we would all be in your debt.
And I'm sure all of us would help in any way we could.
Here.
We're never going to leave the island. None of us are ever going to leave.
What were you hinting at concerning Marsden's politics?
Only that he'd become mixed up with some foreigners. I think that's all I'd better say at present.
I am grateful for your assistance, Judge Wargrave. What was the cause of death?
Impossible to say offhand.
There must be an autopsy.
I certainly couldn't give a certificate without one.
When did you find out?
Rogers roused me at first light. He'd gotten up to light the stove and see to the power generator before waking her. When she didn't respond, he got me.
Can you tell when she died?
Without an autopsy, not for certain, but it must have been some hours ago. The body was quite cold.
Did you hear anything in the night?
No, although it appears I should have.
Good day to you, Doctor. Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
We know that she consumed something last night. Dr. Armstrong told us so.
I, Mr. Lombard?
You gave her a sedative.
A small dose of Trianol, nothing more.
Doctors have made mistakes before.
You're suggesting I accidentally gave Mrs. Rogers an overdose?
Accidentally or otherwise. One death may have been an accident or suicide, but 2 in the space of a few hours?
Simply Outrageous! Man of my standing.
Any more questions, Mr. Narracott?
Did you hear anything in the night?
I'm a very light sleeper. In future, I hope everyone will bear that in mind. Yes, several times I heard something.
You didn't investigate?
With a judge, a detective, and an amateur sleuth in the house, you hardly need my poor skills in that line. I prefer to keep watch.
The hunter in his blind?
A good analogy, Judge.
You said you recognized Owen's voice.
I've had time to think it over, and I'm sure I did. I see no reason to share that information with you.
That'll be all, Mr. Lombard. Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
Conscience.
What do you mean by that?
She was accused, together with her husband, of having deliberately murdered her former employer, an old lady. You all saw her last night. She broke down completely. The shock of her wickedness brought home to her was too much to bear. She literally died of fear.
Possibly, if there was cardiac weakness.
Call it, if you prefer, an act of God.
Thank you, Miss Brent.
Perhaps this will grant the aging general increased mobility.
Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
I'm sure Mrs. Rogers wasn't to blame. A good, loyal woman.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I thought I heard a voice calling my name. My wife. She died several years ago. I expect it was a dream.
General, you said you thought you recognized Lombard.
Lombard, yes. He does look familiar. But the name is wrong. Or is it? I'm sorry, young man. My memory plays tricks on me.
Thank you, General. Stay well. You're a detective, Mr. Bloor. Any theories?
I appreciate you recognizing the fact there's a professional present. I'd like to know what she had to eat or drink last night before she collapsed.
Rogers assures me she had nothing whatsoever.
Of course he would say that. But see here. They've done a murder and gotten away with it. Now she's all hysterical, likely to give the show away. He's a danger to her husband, that's what she is.
Oh, I should hardly think a man would do that to his wife.
You said you knew something about the history of this island.
Most of the old stuff can be found in the library. Its more recent history is just as interesting, though. But I'm not inclined to divulge that just yet.
That is all for now, Mr. Bloor.
Chapter 3. 8 little sailor boys traveling in Devon. One said he'd stay there, and then there were 7.
Rogers didn't let his wife's death get in the way of his custodial duties. I assume everyone has gone off on their own pursuits. I should do the same. Eight little sailor boys. The plot thickens. Hello, Rogers.
Hello, sir. Was there anything you required?
Just looking around. That ham looks good.
Mrs. Rogers had a way with hams. Baked, boiled, fried, pickled, en casserole. Always a treat.
When will dinner be ready?
8 o'clock, sir. Or close to it.
Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary since you arrived here, Rogers?
Just this, sir. This house is more like a museum than a residence. I've dusted every square inch, and I've found articles left behind by many previous owners, including the Robsons, that actress, and even the Admiralty. The only owners who seem to have left no mark at all are Mr. and Mrs. Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I don't think that's appropriate. I won't do that. They don't get along. I can't get them to fit. There's nothing I can do for the victim now.
I asked Rogers what this Miss Brady had suffered from. In a certain form of cardiac trouble, when an attack comes on, an ampule of amyl nitrate is broken and inhaled. If amyl nitrate were withheld...
I see. No positive action must be taken. No arsenic to obtain and administer. Nothing definite at all.
And nothing could be proved against Rogers or his wife.
It explains our situation here quite neatly. There are crimes that cannot be brought home to their perpetrators by the usual methods.
A judge taking advantage of his position? No offense, Judge.
A doctor under the influence letting a scalpel slip? No offense, Doctor. The point is, it explains Mr. Unknown. He has, for reasons only he knows, decided to seek justice for certain crimes as he sees them.
And who among us is the only one that stands unaccused?
Ah, Mr. Narracott, right on cue.
Have you seen any of the others?
Before we came in here, I saw Miss Brent knitting on the patio as if she hadn't a care in the world.
Could you perform an autopsy on Mrs. Rogers?
I could, sir, but I won't. As Mr. Lombard so helpfully pointed out, it might be thought I had something to do with her death. It would be unethical for me to operate.
How much Trianol is missing from your supply?
I wouldn't know. I left the bottle with Rogers in case his wife required a second draft.
That is all for now, Dr. Armstrong. Have you seen any of the others?
I believe Mr. Blore and Mr. Lombard are off searching the island for Mr. Owen.
You didn't want to join them?
They are men accustomed to physical activity. I prefer to search for the truth with my mind.
Me too.
You think they'll find Mr. Owen?
Not in the sense you mean.
Where would you search for Mr. Owen?
Closer to home.
Any idea how we can get off the island?
I've allowed you to continue your own investigations, Mr. Narracott, because I disagree that being the odd man out makes you more suspect. On the contrary. But I've given you a good deal of advice already. It would be well if you thought for yourself for a while and let us get on with our game.
Thank you kindly, Judge.
Nice to have a break in the weather, although I don't expect it will last.
You don't seem concerned by the 2 deaths.
I remember a text that hung in my nursery as a child. Be sure thy sin will find thee out.
So in some way, Marston's and Mrs. Rogers' sins have found them out?
Of course. I have nothing to fear. I've committed no sin. You, if your story is true, have only been protecting your brother. God's law understands such a loving gesture, even if man's law does not.
What are you knitting?
A shawl for my niece.
It's quite subdued for a girl, isn't it?
A man would say that, of course. She is a modest child, and decent. These colors are most appropriate.
Have you seen Rogers?
He's in the kitchen, I think, preparing a cold supper.
Good day, Miss Brent. I can't walk around carrying an axe. He'll lock me up, or worse. I can't see anything of interest.
Let me examine this further.
The generator seems to be working fine. The generator seems to be working fine. The generator seems to be working fine. The grass is slippery and the slope is steep. I'd best stick to the path.
Maybe Owen has wings and is perched someplace we can't reach.
Or swimming around out there with the fish.
You think you'll find Owen?
If he's here, we'll find him.
Why don't you split up?
I suggested that.
The island isn't that big. I felt it was good to stick together to be sure every inch has been covered.
Have you seen Vera?
Miss Claythorne was up on Ship Rock when we searched up there.
Have you seen the General?
He was down on that little beach to the south of Ship Rock. He's definitely gaga, if you ask me.
Like he was in a trance, talking to his wife, asking her forgiveness. Creepy. He sent that Richmond fellow to his death for playing up to the missus. Make no mistake about that.
You look tired.
Miss Claythorne's concern for my well-being moves me far more than yours, Narrowcart. But thanks all the same.
Any conclusions?
Only that I'm damn glad I brought this along.
You have a gun? Why didn't you say something?
I would have used it if necessary.
Still, I don't like it very much.
Well, I don't care very much.
Any idea how we can get off the island?
When I was... well, a friend of mine, actually. When he was in the army, he saw a new parachute design that allowed you to steer. If you like, I can draw you a plan to construct a parachute like the one he saw.
That would be splendid. Thank you.
One parachute per order. It's pretty crude, but I think you'll get the idea. I added a list of materials, too.
Thanks. Good day to you, Mr. Lombard. It's Lombard's plan for building a parachute. I'll copy it into my notebook.
Seems so close, as if I could almost jump across and leave this island behind me.
I'd hate for you to jump, Miss Claythorne. I'd miss you.
I think I'd miss you too.
Think someone on shore could see us?
If they used a telescope like the one on the patio outside my room, I expect they might.
What do you think of Lombard?
I think he's like last night's storm. Dark and wild and possibly dangerous.
But you like him even so?
I love storms.
Have you ever been in love?
I thought I was. I thought I could do anything for him.
What happened?
I'd rather not talk about it, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry the job here didn't work out for you.
It was only temporary. I want to be a teacher, not a secretary. I want another chance to teach more than anything in the world.
Tell me about Rosa.
Mr. Narrowcart, would you think me terribly rude if I just wanted to stand here and look at the scenery before the next storm closes in?
No, I'm sorry I bothered you.
Oh, you didn't bother me. Quite the contrary. But now I'd just like to enjoy the scenery.
The waves are crashing here with particular violence. Nice peaceful spot you found for yourself, sir.
There is so little time. So little time.
I'm making a tour of the island, so to speak.
Quite the adventurer, aren't you?
Have you seen anything that might be useful to us?
You don't understand. You don't understand at all. I'm not sorry I came here. No, it was time. I'm content at last. It feels very strange to come to the end, not have to go on. I know now I will never leave. That's peace. Real peace.
Thank you, General.
I need to subdue the bees first. They'll do me in for sure if I disrupt their artificial home.
It's an old windmill. Impossible to say what it powers, if anything. There are some suitable-looking apples up near the top of this tree, but I can't reach them. Not many apples in this orchard. I suppose I'd blame the lack of sun. Goats. They look hungry. This thicket is rife with thorns. I can't get through it. That goat is a menace. wonder what these houses were used for before they were left to rot. I wonder what these houses were used for before they were left to rot. I wonder what these houses... It's an old windmill. Impossible to say what it powers, if anything.